Southwest Airlines is dead. The maverick carrier that once symbolized friendly skies and quirky customer-first service has been hollowed out beyond recognition. And in its place stands an empty shell, lurching towards irrelevance, and perhaps even bankruptcy. And at the heart of it, an activist investor company ready to drain the airline's soul. The final blow to an airline already on life support. And I know it sounds unthinkable for an airline so deeply woven into American culture. Yet by Christmas 2022, the evidence became impossible to ignore. Southwest's operation imploded in a historic meltdown. Nearly 17,000 flights cancelled, over 2 million passengers stranded. Families slept in airports amid mountains of lost luggage as Southwest transformed from America's most beloved airline into the Grinch who stole Christmas. Its sterling reputation crumbled virtually overnight. So how did the scrappy underdog that revolutionized air travel fall so far, so fast? To understand this collapse, we need to revisit where the Southwest spirit began. Southwest Airlines started in Texas with a simple mission: make flying affordable and fun. Co-founder Herb Kelleher, a chain-smoking, wild turkey-drinking lawyer turned industry rebel, believed in doing things differently. From its first flights in 1971, Southwest was irreverent and scrappy. Flight attendants in bright orange hot pants and go-go boots bantered with passengers. Pilots cheerfully loaded bags. Business casual took on a new meaning at 30,000 feet. The airline only flew short hops with a single type of aircraft, the trusty Boeing 737, keeping costs low and turnarounds quick. Crucially, Southwest fostered a culture of love and loyalty. Its stock ticker symbol is LUV, love, for a reason. Kelleher's philosophy was revolutionary. Take care of your people and they'll take care of your passengers. This employee-first approach created a cult-like dedication amongst staff and a legendary reputation with customers. In an industry known for nickel-and-diming passengers, Southwest stood out as the fun-loving outlier where bags fly free, smiles were plentiful, and even safety briefings might come as a song. And the formula worked brilliantly. By the early 2000s, Southwest had grown from a tiny Texas upstart into a national powerhouse without losing any of its soul. For 47 consecutive years, Southwest turned a profit, which is unprecedented in aviation. So when rivals slashed staff after 9/11 and the 2008 recession, Southwest kept its people employed. And that loyalty ran both ways. Employees pitched in wherever was needed and customers became absolute diehard fans. So, unlike bare-bones carriers like Spirit or Frontier, Southwest pulled off the impossible, offering affordable prices while treating passengers like human beings. In those glory days, the spirit of Southwest, that special blend of hospitality, humor, and heart, felt unshakable. But every fairy tale has its breaking point, and Southwest's success story was about to crash into a harsh reality that no amount of love could ever fix. Yet beneath the surface, a ticking time bomb of outdated technology and misplaced priorities was about to detonate. When it finally exploded, it would strand millions and shatter decades of customer trust in just 10 devastating days. By the mid-2010s, the airline was bigger and more complex than ever, but its infrastructure hadn't kept pace. Veteran employees started noticing the tight-knit culture was fraying. Herb Kelleher had retired and new leadership seemed much more focused on the bottom line than that old Southwest magic. For years, Southwest poured billions into pleasing investors through stock buybacks and dividends, while critical technology systems quietly crumbled in the background. Between 2012 and 2022, Southwest's cancellation rate tripled and on-time performance plummeted. The airline was running on aging computer systems and held together by Southwest's can-do spirit, and probably little else. One major pain point: the creaky software managing crew schedules. Southwest was still using a system from the 1990s to coordinate where its pilots and flight attendants needed to be. When weather disruptions hit, crew members frequently got lost in the system, stuck out of place with no easy way for the software to find them. Picture this. While competitors were using modern cloud systems to track crews in real time, Southwest dispatchers were essentially hunting for needles in haystack with 9,000 flight attendants during storms. The joke inside the company wasn't if the system would fail catastrophically, but when. In early 2022, Southwest Pilots Union took the dramatic step of picketing, not for higher pay, but for better technology. They bluntly warned that if the airline did not fix its systems, a massive operational meltdown was inevitable. Those warnings went unheeded. October 2021 provided a preview of what was coming. A relatively minor bout of bad weather set Southwest's operation into a tailspin. Over a single weekend, Southwest cancelled more than 2,000 flights, far more than any other airline hit by the same storm. The airline blamed weather and air traffic delays, but insiders knew better. This was a warning shot. Morale inside of the company was eroding. Exhausted crews and frayed nerves became the norm. Long-time staffers who once bled that Southwest gold felt management had lost complete touch with the front lines. The folksy culture that had been Southwest's secret sauce was spoiling. To most casual travelers, these were just hidden cracks. On the surface, Southwest's smile was still painted on the plane, but behind that cheerful facade, the airline had become a ticking time bomb. Flight attendants whispered about inevitable collapse, and pilots exchanged knowing glances during pre-flight checks. Management ignored the warning signs, assuring investors that everything was under control. But those on the inside knew the truth. Southwest was one storm away from catastrophe. The countdown to collapse had begun. Southwest wasn't just flying into a storm, it was flying blind, with passengers who had no idea that their Christmas plans were about to collide with a half-century of postponed technological reckoning. December 2022 brought that storm, and with it, the most spectacular airline meltdown in American history. A ferocious winter storm swept across the United States right before Christmas. Southwest, with its unconventional point-to-point route network instead of a traditional hub system, was especially vulnerable. Unlike hub-based carriers that funnel traffic through central airports, Southwest directly connects cities across its network. When snow buried key cities like Chicago and Denver, there was no central hub to reorganize operations around. Delays in one airport cascaded into chaos across the country, with no way to contain the disruption. But the storm was merely the spark that lit the fuse. The true explosion came from within. Southwest's brittle scheduling system simply couldn't cope. As flights were delayed, crews and planes ended up stranded, and the antiquated software couldn't put the pieces back together. By the day after Christmas, Southwest's operation went into freefall. The airline preemptively cancelled over 70% of its flights, essentially throwing up its hands. Entire cities saw almost every Southwest flight completely wiped out. Southwest's legendary employees tried their best to keep the ship afloat. Some even drove hours to get to airports where they were needed. But they too were victims of the broken system. Pilots and flight attendants found themselves on hold with crew scheduling for up to 10 hours at a time, waiting for any kind of instruction. Some literally fell asleep with phones to their ears, only to wake up to find that they were still on hold. The airline had effectively lost track of its own crews. Meanwhile, tens of thousands of passengers were stranded. Baggage piled up in mountains. Heartbreaking stories emerged. Families who missed Christmas together, travelers sleeping on airport floors, and children who couldn't reclaim their holiday gifts from the sea of misplaced bags. The Christmas 2022 collapse, the worst holiday travel disaster in US aviation history by the numbers. 17,000 flights vanished. 2 million passengers were abandoned. $1 billion of losses, $140 million in government fines, and one legendary reputation systematically destroyed. The US Department of Transportation launched an investigation and issued its largest ever consumer protection fine. CEO Bob Jordan issued a public apology, but it came a full week after the crisis began, leaving many wondering why leadership seemed as overwhelmed as the system itself. Southwest Airlines, the company that once marketed itself with cartoon hearts and the slogan "Love," was being compared to the Grinch in headlines. This wasn't just a PR disaster, it was a reckoning. Had the soul of Southwest been sacrificed on the altar of cost-cutting? Inside the company, employees were furious. They had been sounding the alarm for years, and now their worst fears had come true. Loyal customers felt betrayed. The unique spirit that set Southwest apart, that almost mythical quality of treating strangers like family, was hanging by a thread. In the aftermath, Southwest promised change. The airline admitted it had messed up and vowed to make things right. In 2023, it earmarked over $1 billion to finally modernize its IT and scheduling systems. New crew management software was fast-tracked, and by mid-2023, there were signs of improvement. And frontline employees, despite the bruises of 2022, went above and beyond to restore trust. But this story doesn't have the comeback ending that you might expect. While Southwest was making technical fixes, Wall Street sharks were circling, sensing weakness in an airline whose stock had plummeted 40% in a year. The real transformation of Southwest wasn't the one passengers had been hoping for. It was something far more ruthless. Behind these latest moves lurked a clear culprit. Activist investor Elliott Management, an aggressive hedge fund known for forcing dramatic changes at companies that it targeted. In late 2024, Elliott, already a major Southwest shareholder, forced a corporate shakeup, winning 5 new board seats and essentially seizing control of the airline's strategy. Once Elliott was at the helm, the dismantling accelerated. In early 2025, Southwest took an action that would have been unthinkable under Kelleher, carrying out its first ever company-wide layoffs, slashing over 1,700 jobs. This wasn't just a business decision, it was a complete betrayal of Southwest's founding principle that employees came first. The same airline that proudly kept staff employed through 9/11 and the 2008 recession was now discarding its people at the first demand from Wall Street. Kelleher's "take care of your people" mantra had been replaced with "cut costs at any price." And that was just the beginning. Southwest announced that it would unravel 2 of its signature policies. Starting on the 28th of May 2025, the famous promise that bags fly free would end. Passengers would now have to pay to check even a single bag, and that friendly open seating policy, it too was being replaced by assigned seats. These weren't minor tweaks for the efficiency, but wholesale reversals of the airline's identity, moves demanded by Elliott's profit-driven agenda. To many loyal customers and employees, this felt less like evolution and more like a hostile takeover of a brand that they loved. Southwest leaders insisted that the company's heart was unchanged, but action spoke louder than words. One industry writer noted that Southwest was clearly shifting away from policies that investors don't see as benefiting the company, at least in terms of profitability, even if it meant sacrificing what customers love most. So, is the spirit of Southwest dead? Let's be clear, the Southwest Airlines that America fell in love with has been systematically destroyed. The red heart on the tail fins has become a hollow symbol, a corporate logo stripped of meaning. Elliott Management's hostile takeover delivered that final fatal blow to Southwest's soul when it eliminated the airline's defining features: free bags, open seating, and most crucially, the unwavering commitment to its own people. What we're witnessing is not evolution, but extinction. The airline that once proved that you could succeed by putting people first has surrendered to Wall Street's demands. The facts are undeniable. Southwest's unique magic didn't gradually fade. It was deliberately dismantled in pursuit of short-term profits. The airline that revolutionized air travel now exists only in memory, replaced by yet another soulless carrier racing to the bottom. The heart may still be painted on the planes, but Southwest's true spirit has flatlined. Thanks for joining us as we paid tribute to a true American original. For the Sky Digest, I'm Jan. May your flights be smooth and may your bags still fly free. Cheers.